Have you ever noticed something strange? Making your first $1,000 online feels almost impossible. But the people making $10,000, $20,000, even $100,000 a month often say the exact same thing. The hardest money they ever made was the first $1,000. Because before that first payment, you're full of doubt. You don't know what skill to learn. You don't know what's real and what's another fake guru selling a dream. And every time you open YouTube, someone is telling you to start a new business model. Dropshipping, Amazon, FBA, social media marketing, crypto, AI. The list never ends. But here's what almost nobody tells you. Business models change. Platforms change. Algorithms change. Skills don't. There are skills that were making people money hundreds of years ago, and they're still making people money today. One of those skills has quietly created thousands of millionaires. It doesn't require a degree. You don't need years of experience, and you don't need thousands of dollars to start. You simply need to become good enough for someone to pay you. And once that first payment arrives, everything changes. Because your first $1,000 isn't just money, it's proof. Proof that someone on the internet, someone you've never met, is willing to exchange their hard-earned money for your skill. After that, making $5,000 feels more realistic. Then $10,000. Then eventually, building a real online income stops feeling like a fantasy and starts feeling like a process. So in this video, I'm going to show you exactly how beginners can reach that first milestone. Not with another trendy business model, but with a skill that survived for centuries. We'll break everything down into 3 simple steps. First, I'll show you the skill itself and why businesses are willing to pay so much for it. Second, I'll show you a learning method that lets beginners improve much faster than most people. And finally, I'll show you how to turn that skill into your very first clients using one of the biggest freelancing platforms in the world. Now, let's start with the skill. Every single day, whether you realize it or not, you're surrounded by it. Every email you open, every advertisement you click, every product page that convinces you to buy, every sales page, every landing page, even many YouTube ads. Behind all of them, someone wrote those words. That skill is called copywriting. And unlike most online business opportunities people talk about today, copywriting isn't new. It has existed for centuries. Ever since people learned how to read and businesses wanted to persuade people, copywriting has existed. That's exactly why it's one of the most timeless skills you can learn. Because businesses will always need customers, and customers are influenced by words. If someone can write words that consistently make a business more money, why wouldn't that business happily pay them? Think about it. Imagine hiring someone who opens a blank Google document, writes a few hundred words, and those words generate thousands of dollars in additional sales. That isn't an expense. That's an investment. And that's exactly why great copywriters get paid so well. Now, does that mean you need 4 years in college before someone hires you? Absolutely not. You don't need to become the best copywriter in the world before you earn your first dollar. You only need to become good enough to deliver results. And that's where most beginners make a huge mistake. They think they need years of study before they're allowed to start. But there's a much faster way to learn. And it starts with something I like to call the cookbook method. So, how do you actually learn copywriting? Because this is where most beginners get stuck. They spend months watching tutorials, buying courses, reading books, taking notes, and after all that, they still can't write a single piece of copy that someone would actually pay for. Not because they're lazy, but because they're learning the wrong way. Let me explain. Imagine someone who's never cooked a meal in their life. Now imagine that same person wants to cook like Gordon Ramsay. Most people think the only way to get there is years of practice, culinary school, and endless experience. But what if I gave that person Gordon Ramsay's cookbook? Every ingredient, every measurement, every step, every instruction. Would they instantly become Gordon Ramsay? Of course not. But would they cook something far better than someone who's just guessing? Absolutely. Because they're following a proven system instead of relying on trial and error. And that's exactly how beginners should learn copywriting. You don't start by trying to invent brilliant copy from scratch. You start by studying what already works. Because somewhere out there, businesses have already spent millions of dollars testing headlines, emails, landing pages, and advertisements. They've already figured out what grabs attention, what keeps people reading, and what convinces people to buy. So instead of reinventing the wheel, you simply learn from it. This is what I call the cookbook method. One of the best places to do this is a website called swipe.co. Think of it like a giant library of successful copy. Inside you'll find real emails, sales pages, advertisements, landing pages, and countless examples that have already proven themselves in the real world. Now here's where most people expect something complicated. But the exercise is actually incredibly simple. Open a piece of copy from the website, then open a blank document beside it and rewrite it, word for word. That's it. At first, it'll probably feel boring, maybe even pointless. You might think, why am I copying someone else's work? How is this helping me? But something interesting starts happening after you've rewritten enough pieces. You stop seeing words. You start seeing patterns. You'll notice how every headline creates curiosity, how every opening sentence pulls you into the next, how every paragraph naturally leads into another. You'll begin recognizing little psychological triggers that you never noticed before. Certain phrases, certain structures, certain emotional angles. Suddenly you'll catch yourself thinking, wait, that's why they wrote it like that. Those small moments of realization are exactly how your brain starts learning copywriting, not through memorization, but through repetition. Let's look at a simple example. Imagine you're writing an email for a company that sells multivitamin supplements. Instead of randomly talking about the product, a strong piece of copy starts by focusing on the customer's problems. Low energy, poor sleep, feeling tired throughout the day, difficulty concentrating. The moment readers recognize their own struggles, they naturally become interested in the solution. Then the copy shifts. Instead of presenting it as just another vitamin, it positions the product as something different, something they can't simply grab from the nearest supermarket. That creates curiosity. It makes the reader think, maybe this is actually worth paying attention to. You'll also notice another small detail that separates good copy from average copy: the formatting. Most beginners write huge paragraphs. Professional copywriters don't. They keep sentences short, 1 or 2 lines at a time, because walls of text overwhelm readers. Short paragraphs make every sentence easier to read. And when reading feels effortless, people keep reading. These tiny details may not seem important individually, but together, they're the difference between copy that gets ignored and copy that gets results. The best part? You don't need months to start improving. If you spend just an hour each day rewriting successful copy, you'll learn faster than most beginners who spend that same hour only watching tutorials. Because copywriting isn't a skill you master by consuming information. It's a skill you master by practicing it. Now, learning the skill is only half the battle. The next question is, how do you actually find people willing to pay you for it? Because knowing how to write is valuable, but turning that skill into income is a completely different game. And that's exactly what we're going to cover next. So, you've learned the skill. You've practiced it. You're starting to understand how great copy is actually written. Now comes the question every beginner eventually asks. Where do I find someone who's actually willing to pay me? Because here's the truth. A skill by itself doesn't make you money. People do. You need clients. And for most beginners, getting that first client feels harder than learning the skill itself. But it doesn't have to be. Let me explain it with a simple example. I'm over 6 feet tall. If I want the cereal sitting on the top shelf in my kitchen, I just reach up and grab it. Simple. But imagine someone who's a little shorter. They might need a small chair to reach the exact same shelf. The cereal didn't move. The shelf didn't change. They just needed a little boost. Your first clients work the exact same way. The clients already exist. Businesses are already looking for copywriters every single day. The only thing you need is a platform that helps you reach them. That platform is called Upwork. Think of Upwork as a marketplace. On one side, thousands of businesses need work done. On the other, freelancers offer their skills. The platform simply connects the two. If you know how to position yourself correctly, landing your first client becomes much easier than trying to cold message hundreds of strangers. But here's where most beginners make a huge mistake. They rush through creating their profile. They treat it like filling out another social media account. And then they wonder why nobody hires them. Remember this, before a client ever sends you a message, they judge your profile. Your profile is your storefront. If it doesn't look trustworthy, people won't even click hire. So let's build it the right way. When you create your Upwork account and sign up as a freelancer, you'll be asked about your experience. Don't overthink it. Answer honestly. Then choose that you're looking to earn your primary income through freelancing. Next comes one of the most important parts, your title. Instead of writing something generic like freelancer or writer, be specific. Use something like email copywriter. Why? Because businesses don't hire generalists, they hire specialists. Someone searching for an email copywriter wants to immediately know that's exactly what you do. Now comes your portfolio. This is where a lot of beginners panic. I have never had a client. I don't have experience. That's completely normal. Remember the cookbook method? Those practice emails you've been rewriting, turn them into portfolio pieces. Create 6 to 8 strong email examples. You don't need real clients to demonstrate your writing ability. You simply need examples that show you understand the fundamentals. The more quality examples you have, the easier it becomes for potential clients to trust you. After that, fill in any education you have. If you have certifications, great, add them. If you don't worry. Most clients care far more about your writing than your diploma. Next, add your languages. If you're fluent in English, list it. If you can also write fluently in another language like Spanish, that's an extra advantage. Because bilingual copywriters can often serve a much larger market. Then you'll choose your skills. Add every relevant keyword connected to email copywriting. These tags help clients discover your profile when they're searching for freelancers. Now comes something that can quietly decide whether someone hires you or scrolls past you. Your bio. Think of your bio as your personal sales page. It's your opportunity to explain who you help, what you do, and why someone should trust you. You can even use the exact same principle you've already been practicing. Study successful freelancer profiles. Understand their structure. Then write your own version. Don't copy someone's profile word for word. Take inspiration, but make it your own. Add your own personality, your own style, because if hundreds of people all paste the exact same profile, it becomes obvious, and clients notice. Once you've written your bio, select the service you're offering. In this case, copywriting. For your starting rate, around $50 is a solid place to begin. Many beginners obsess over hourly pricing, but fixed price projects are often much simpler when you're just starting out. Finally, your profile photo. This matters more than most people think. Clients are hiring a real person, not an anonymous account. Choose a clean, professional, friendly-looking picture. If you don't already have one, you can even use an AI headshot generator to create a polished professional photo in just a few minutes. Nothing flashy, nothing over-edited, just something that makes you look trustworthy. Because remember, people buy from people they trust, and your profile should communicate that before you've even exchanged a single message. Now, your storefront is ready, your portfolio is ready, your profile is ready, but none of that guarantees clients, because the next mistake beginners make is applying to the wrong jobs, and that wastes time, energy, and even money. So in the next part, I'm going to show you exactly how to find the best clients, avoid the worst ones, and write proposals that actually get replies instead of being ignored. So, your profile is complete. You have a portfolio. You understand the basics of copywriting. Now comes the part that actually makes you money, getting clients. And this is where most beginners fail. Not because they aren't good enough, but because they apply for every single job they see. They spend hours sending proposals, burn through their Upwork connects, and then wonder why nobody replies. The truth is, not every client is worth your time. Some clients don't know what they want. Some expect $1,000 worth of work for $20. Some never respond after posting the job. And others simply aren't serious buyers. If you want to make your first $1,000 as quickly as possible, you need to be selective, because finding the right client is just as important as having the right skill. Here's exactly how to do it. Step 1. Search the right way, go to Upwork, and search for copywriting or email copywriting. You'll immediately see hundreds of jobs. At first, that might seem overwhelming, but don't worry, we're going to filter out almost all of the bad opportunities. Start by selecting entry level. A lot of beginners avoid these jobs because they think they don't pay well. But remember, you're not trying to make $10,000 today, you're trying to land your first client. Entry-level jobs are much more likely to give beginners a chance. Next, choose jobs that need someone immediately. These clients usually want to hire quickly instead of spending weeks comparing freelancers. That alone increases your chances of getting noticed. Now look at the number of proposals. This is one of the most overlooked filters on Upwork. If a job already has 50, 100, or even 200 proposals, your chances become much smaller. Instead, focus on jobs with very few proposals. Less competition means a higher probability that the client actually reads your application. Then check two more things. First, make sure the client has verified payment. This tells you they've verified their payment method and are much more likely to be legitimate. Second, look for clients who've hired freelancers before. Why does this matter? Because they've already used Upwork successfully. They understand the hiring process, and they're usually much easier to work with than someone posting their very first job. These small filters might seem simple, but together they dramatically improve the quality of jobs you're applying for. Now comes the most important part, the proposal, because you can find the perfect job. But if your proposal is weak, none of it matters. Step 2. Write a proposal that gets replies. Most beginners write proposals like this. Hi, I'm interested in your job. I have experience. Please hire me. And then they wonder why they're ignored. Remember everything you've learned so far. Copywriting is about communication. Your proposal is the first piece of copy your client will ever read. So treat it like one. Keep it simple, keep it professional, and make it easy for the client to take the next step. For example, start by addressing them by name if it's available, then let them know you're ready to help. Invite them to send you a message or schedule a quick call to discuss the project. Finally, mention that you've attached samples of your previous work so they know exactly what quality to expect. End the proposal politely. Wish them a great day. Thank them for their time, and include your name. That's it. Notice what you didn't do. You didn't write a giant essay. You didn't beg for the job. You didn't promise impossible results. You simply made it easy for for the client to trust you and continue the conversation. And just like with copywriting, you can improve your proposals using the exact same cookbook method. Study successful freelancer proposals. Understand their structure, then write your own version. Take inspiration, don't copy. The goal isn't to sound like everyone else. The goal is to sound professional. Step 3. Repeat the process. Every day, landing clients isn't usually about sending one perfect proposal. It's about consistency. Apply to quality jobs every single day. A good target is around 10 high-quality applications daily. Some days, nobody replies. Other days, you'll receive multiple messages. That's completely normal. Freelancing is a numbers game. The more qualified opportunities you apply for, the higher your chances of landing your first client. Eventually, one client says yes, then another, and before you realize it, that first $1,000 no longer feels impossible. But here's something important to understand. Making your first $1,000 is only the beginning, because once you know how to consistently get clients, you can increase your rates, work with bigger businesses, and turn a beginner side hustle into a real income. So in the final part, let's talk about how to go from earning your first $1,000 to building a copywriting business that can generate $5,000 to $10,000 per month. So now you've learned the skill, you've practiced it, you've built your portfolio, you've even created your Upwork profile. But here's where almost every beginner fails. And it's not because they're bad copywriters. It's because they completely mess up the client acquisition process. Most beginners join Upwork and immediately start applying to every single job they see. Anything related to copywriting, click, apply, repeat. Then a week later, they've sent 50 proposals, got 0 replies, and they start saying, Upwork is saturated. There's too much competition. It's impossible to get clients. But that's not actually the problem. The real problem is that they're applying for the wrong jobs, and they're wasting something called connects. If you've never used Upwork before, every proposal costs connects. Think of them as the platform's currency. You receive some when you first sign up, but they're limited, which means every application matters. You don't want to waste them chasing jobs you were never going to win. So here's exactly how you should filter your search. First, search for copywriting. Then apply the entry-level filter. This is incredibly important. You're a beginner. You want clients who are already open to hiring beginners. Next, look for jobs with a low number of proposals. If a job already has 100 or 200 applicants, your chances instantly drop. But if there are only 5, 10, or 15 proposals, your application has a much better chance of actually being seen. Then check 2 more things. First, make sure the client's payment method is verified. That tells you they're a legitimate buyer. Second, look for clients who've hired freelancers before. If they've already hired people on Upwork, they're much more likely to hire again. These simple filters alone can save you hours of wasted effort. Now let's talk about the most important part of this entire process, your proposal. Because honestly, none of the previous steps matter if your proposal is terrible. The proposal is the very first impression a client gets of you, not your portfolio. Not your profile, your proposal. And just like everything else in this video, you can use the cookbook method here too. Study successful proposals, understand their structure, then create your own version. It can be as simple as this. Hey Daniel, I'm ready whenever you are. I'd love to jump on a quick call to discuss your project. I've attached a few samples of my previous work so you know exactly what you can expect. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out. Looking forward to hearing from you. That's it. Short, professional, confident. No unnecessary paragraphs. No fake promises. No trying to sound like the greatest copywriter on earth. Just clear communication and proof that you can do the job. Then repeat this process every single day. Personally, I'd aim for at least 10 high-quality applications per day, not random applications. Quality applications, because freelancing is ultimately a numbers game. Not every client will reply, not every interview becomes a job, and not every proposal gets accepted. But consistency always compounds. And once you land your first client, everything becomes easier, because now you have reviews, you have credibility, you have proof. Clients trust you more. More trust leads to more replies. More replies lead to more clients. And that's why your first $1,000 is always the hardest. Once you reach that milestone, the next $5,000, the next $10,000, and everything beyond becomes significantly easier. So remember this, you're not trying to become the world's greatest copywriter overnight. You're simply trying to become good enough to solve a business owner's problem. Because businesses don't pay for words, they pay for results. And if you can consistently deliver those results, there will always be someone willing to pay you for them.